Hello everyone and welcome back to our dumper series, and with me today we're going to go through the daily operation checks that you should be doing on one of our 6 or 9 ton cab dumpers from Thwaites, available at WHC Hire. We're going to go through all the visual checks you should be checking for, all of the engine checks, and also finally your electrical and safety checks. Follow this step-by-step guide and you'll ensure that your machine is in perfect working order. Now, if you come into any issues whilst doing any of these checks, you must get in contact with your local WHC Hire depot as soon as possible so we can ensure that the machinery is safe for you to use. So, to begin with, we're going to start with our visual checks. We're going to work our way all the way around the machine, checking different components for different bits and bobs. Let's get started. So let's start at the front of the machine. On top, we've got our skip. What we're looking for there is any damage to it that wasn't there the last time that we used it. Also checking on the front that our headlights are intact, and also that our indicators and our other side lights are intact as well. We're going to move down the left hand side of the machine, checking the tyres for any rips, anything that looks irregular, and that the tyre pressure looks adequate. A bit further down, we're going to check our hydraulic rams on our articulation point, ensuring that there's no leakages from it. Then what we want to do is make sure that our stairwell is nice and clear, and then we're going to start the body of the cab on the left hand side, checking that all the panels are complete, all the glass is in one piece, and finally on the left hand side, checking the rear left tyre to ensure that it's adequately inflated and there's no damage to it. Now let's go and check out the rear of the machine before moving down and completing our final visual checks. So as we come up to the rear of the machine, we want to check that our rear lights are working and our indicators are all in one piece. Just checking the rear of the bodywork of the cab and also the rear reverse camera that you'll find on the back of these machines. Once you're happy with those visual checks, we can do the same down the opposite side before starting our fluids and our levels checks. So now we're coming down the right hand side of the machine. We're going to check the cabin, check the operator's mirror, check the rear tyre for any damage and there's adequately inflated. Double check that the stairwell is nice and clear, that the articulation point has got no leaks at all from this side. The skip, the same thing, make sure it's in good working condition, and finishing up with our front tyre. Once we've done all of those visual checks, we're now ready to move on to our fluids and our levels checks, which we'll find underneath the operator's seat. To do so, you better follow me. So now we're moving on to our fluids and our levels checks. Now to do so, we need to access the engine which is underneath the operator's seat. This is a little bit more tricky than on our standard models, but I'll show you exactly how to access those ports right now. To do with, what we need to do is open both of the cabin doors on each side of the machine. Right now we've got our operator's doors open, we're going to open up our side hatches. To do so, we're going to use the lever just inside the operator's cabin that will unlock these side hatches. We need to do this on both sides of the machine. Once we've done that, we can move into the machine to expose the whole engine to do our fluids and levels checks. Now when entering the machine, we must make sure that we use 3 points of contact, including the handlebars that are found on the outside of the cabin and on the operator's seat. Right, to access this engine hatch, what we need to do is fold up the seat beforehand. To do so, we're going to draw it forward using the handlebar underneath the seat as far as we can. And then we're going to use the recliner lever on the side of the seat to fold the seat completely up. Now to lift the bonnet up, we're going to use the handle that's in between your legs and pull that out, and then use the handle just by the side of the seat to lift up the bonnet of the machine. This now has completely exposed the engine. You've now got access on both sides and also on top. So down on the top of the machine, we've got our oil filler cap, we've got our engine dipstick and our air filter. Those are the 3 things that we can access from this port here. Once we're happy with those, we're going to close this up and secure it safely. And then we're going to move down to the right hand side of the machine where we can check our battery and also our engine coolant. Follow me. And on the right hand side hatch, we can access the engine coolant as well as the machine's battery. Once you're happy with those, we can close this side of this compartment up by just closing it up, just as simple as that. Now we're going to go around to the left-hand side to do our final checks there before starting our electrical and safety tests. Right, so we're around on the left-hand side of the machine now, and from here we can check the fuel level of the dumper. Ensure that the dumper is adequately fueled, and to do so you can use the filler cap that's just here. Once you're happy now with all your fluids and levels checks, we can do our final safety checks of the machine before operating it and starting our day's work. All we need to do now is get ourselves into the operator's seat. Now, as soon as we get ourselves into the machine, first thing we need to do is pop that seat belt on, ensure it fastens safely and works correctly. So just give it a tug to ensure that it's working correctly. Now we can adjust our seat by using the handle underneath the seat to move the seat forwards and backwards, and then to recline it is the handle just to the left hand side of the seat belt. Now once you're nice and comfortable in your seat and your seat belt is done its check, we can now go on to our final electrical tests before starting our day's work. To do so, what we need to do is take our operator's key and pop it into the ignition and turn it to position 1. Now what we're going to do is check that our indicators work. We can check that our headlights work. And also we can double check that the operating beacons, including the green safety beacon, work on top of the cabin. Now when you've completed all of these checks, you can just simply key off and remove the key from the ignition as your machine is ready for its day's work. And there you go everyone, those are the pre-operational start checks that you should be doing on one of our cab 6 or 9 ton dumpers from Thwaites. Now, whilst doing these checks, if you come into any problems whilst doing them, you must get in contact with one of your local WHC Hire depots as soon as possible. It's important to ensure for us that the machinery is safe for you to use. Thank you ever so much for joining us, but until the next video, take care and bye-bye for now.